Ladakh, the northernmost state of India, wedged between Pakistan and Tibet. At an altitude of 4,000 metres, the capital city, Leh, normally has a population of just 50,000 hardy mountain people. But today, the city is receiving guests, 150,000 of them. These pilgrims have come from all over South Asia and the worlds beyond to immerse themselves in 12 days of ancient Buddhist practice, focused on finding greater self-knowledge and peace of mind. It's called the Kalachakra, a sacred festival led by one of the most revered spiritual leaders in the world, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet.
Buddhism is really all about the experience. It's about getting a taste.
Even just landing, I think, even in Ladakh, was like I felt something. I could sort of almost feel the mountains drawing something out of me.
I feel I will take away a deeper level of peace. I would like to take away more compassion. I will definitely take away more gratitude.
Buddhism grew out of Hinduism in northern India around 2,500 years ago. After his enlightenment, Buddha's teachings centred on the idea that human beings are caught in an endless cycle of distress, brought about by ignorance, attachment, and negative emotions. Buddha taught that he had discovered techniques to liberate everyone from suffering. Even though the Dalai Lama has lived in exile since 1959 and been horrified by the Chinese invasion, he continues to tread the path of non-violence, emphasising that world peace starts within each individual. And that Buddhism is not about faith in an external God, but about how understanding the true causes of suffering in one's own mind is the best way to find lasting happiness.
So he is a living proof, because everyone loves him. He has no country, has no army, he has really no, relatively speaking, considering that he gives all his money to his people, and he gives it to other people.
He brings out that genuine happiness in people that's part of us, and he's able to bring that out.
I just think he must just be happy. Sometimes, I think you definitely see his laughing because people come up and they seem so serious, and he's so relaxed and like open, and so I think sometimes he's laughing because he sees the grand cosmic joke, which we don't get. We think everything's real and everything's solid and has to be dealt with, and he's like, oh guys, look, it's a massive joke.
Your Holiness, when you stand on that stage in front of 150,000 people, what goes through your mind?
No, nothing special. I always consider myself, I'm among 7 billion human beings. So all 7 billion human beings, the same. Whether in the presence or otherwise, we're still on this planet, the 7 billion human beings. We live here. Sometimes quarrel, sometimes cheating, sometimes bully, or worst thing, killing. But we are same human being.
Since his exile from Tibet, the Dalai Lama's charismatic presence has gained him world attention and a Nobel Peace Prize. And Buddhist principles have informed modern psychology, meditation and self-help practice all over the world. So even in remote Ladakh, more than 6,000 Westerners, including over 1,000 Australians, have made the arduous journey to hear him.
I became a Buddhist maybe 6 years ago, and some friends of mine asked me if I wanted to come here, and obviously His Holiness is someone that I have great respect for. So the Kalachakra is, for me personally, an event or a process that will hopefully help me transform myself internally, become a better person, but it's also a bit bigger than that because it brings so many people together from all different religions and creating a more positive energy for the world.
If my experience is anything to go by, it's definitely about transformation and developing pure view, I guess, like seeing things differently than how we conventionally look at them.
I'm not a Buddhist, but I go for the blessing, I go for the intrigue, I go for the environment. I love to observe the audience and the crowd, and I ask myself, why am I here? Because it's a fair amount of discomfort. You sit on the ground for many hours a day, along with another 100 or more 1,000 people.
And then at 5 o'clock, I'll be free. I'm an Aussie. I'm from Melbourne. I'm a Buddhist. My mum, she was a Buddhist nun, actually, in the 70s for a couple of years. So that was always an influence in my life. So for me, this is now coming back. It's like, yeah, I'm going to actually take sort of 2 or 3 months out of my life to come to India, to go to things like the Kalachakra with His Holiness, to explore, to learn about my sort of faith identity, where it came from. Because this is my first trip to India, which is pretty cool. I'm 26, and this is my first trip to India. I've been a Buddhist my whole life.
Please tune your radio into 89 for English. When you, chief of the bipeds, were born, you took 7 steps on this great earth and said, I'm supreme in world. To you who were wise at the time, I pay homage.
My understanding of the Kalachakra is that it's a complete toolbox for becoming a self-realized and functional member of the world, of a society.
One unique thing about Buddhism, Buddha stated, "Oh, my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment."
Basic day at the Kalachakra, His Holiness arrives quite early, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock, and he does his practice and what's called the self-generation. Some people come along and hang out and bliss out and enjoy that, but most people arrive just after lunch, and that's when it begins. And then there's just a series of meditations and prayers and things we have to repeat and so forth that we go through with him for about 3 or 4 hours. And by the end of it, you're kind of hot and sticky, but a little bit blissed out and happy and maybe confused.
The ritual centrepiece of the Kalachakra is a sacred mandala of intricate geometry to be constructed over many days in coloured sand. The mandala is a two-dimensional representation of an ideal world.
A mandala is a representation of a divine world, and it's literally the house of your Buddha nature. And so a mandala is a representation of that, of how we create the world with our mind. And so in Tibetan Buddhism, we are deliberately remaking our minds so that our experience of the world is different, is improved, so that it's infused with more connection, with more compassion and kindness.
This is the verse of salutation from Abhisamaya Alamkara. The Buddha dispels the darkness of the ignorance of sentient beings with his teaching. And so, without being overly attached to the teaching of the Buddha, saying that I'm a Buddhist and therefore I hold the Buddha to be sacred. But what you need is an unbiased, skeptical mind and do analysis of the teaching of the Buddha.
Buddha taught that by learning to still the mental chatter of competing thoughts, a person can perceive what is real and what is illusion, and be left with an objective mind, free of the causes of suffering and conflict.
You have an experience of yourself as if you are everything and everybody and all of time simultaneously. And then you feel totally great. You feel totally blissed out.
So transforming your mind away from the greed, ignorance, hatred is just so natural. Getting away from that cycle and kind of training ourselves step by step to appreciate more compassion and kindness. Kindness that people do to oneself, and appreciating the kindness that one can do to others. And seeing that gradually replacing the negative, defensive, angry attitude, which is only harmful, which we know is only harmful.
Kalachakra has a particular way of people finding confidence that the power of goodness and love, that will dominate. You know, the world will not go up in nuclear explosion. It will not go up in polluted, warmed floods and everything. It will work out because there are very powerful forces helping us. But on the other hand, they can't do it for us. We have to wake up and shape up.
It's hard to see how you doing a little bit of meditation and calming your mind is going to bring about world peace. It's very hard to see that. But I think everybody knows that their actions have a consequence. And so if they're bringing negativity into their workplace or into their family, it creates unhappiness around them. So you ultimately just have to become responsible for the things which you touch in life.
All teachings, including non-Buddhist teachings, Christianity, Judaism, Muslim or Islam, different Hindus, all teaching. The real practice is practice of love. That's the seed of peace. And in order to practice, you see, that all teachings also, you see, emphasis practice of forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline. So this brings me firm conviction there is possibility to eliminate all destructive emotion.
After 8 long days of painstaking concentration, the Kalachakra mandala is taking shape, and there's not a grain of sand out of place. In
Tantric Buddhism, you're supposed to be always doing stuff with your body, speech, and mind. So their body is, marking out the lines, but they might be saying mantras at the same time. And in their mind, they're visualizing that they're manifesting this mandala out of nothing, out of emptiness.
Once complete, this symbolic masterpiece will be ritually swept away as the final act of the 12-day Kalachakra festival.
So it's a massive teaching on impermanence, on how something appears really beautiful and amazing, and spending a lot of time, because that's what we do. We spend a lot of time in our lives working on things and making them beautiful, but ultimately everything dissolves anyway.
At an altitude of 4,000 metres in this alpine desert, the air is dry and the midday temperature climbs to over 30 degrees. Several times a day, a small army of local volunteers refresh the crowds with steaming hot Tibetan tea.
There's a lot of heat, there's a lot of things to do, there's a lot of people here. And so a lot of the time I spend trying to manage all those physical obstacles, the crowds, lack of proper food, not enough water, people jostling. And then, from time to time sitting in the teachings, just listening to what His Holiness is saying. Certainly in the first few days, I found it quite an emotional experience.
I've been hungry, I've been thirsty, I've been uncomfortable. And yet it's probably some of my most joyous experiences.
We're doing different things here. It looks like we're all doing the same stuff in some ways. But each person is having a very different experience, and I think, maybe His Holiness is the thing that brings us together. You can see the focus when he comes in, and everyone's silently there, prostrating, and looking right at him.
So, when the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, he said this is the noble truth of suffering, this is the noble truth of origin, and then the cessation, and the noble truth of the path.
When I talk one individual, when I talk 10 people, when I talk 100 people, 1,000 people, 100,000, no differences.
From time to time, something kind of goes into your heart and you feel something a bit more. But I would expect that most of the effects of this will be felt several weeks later. When I go back, I'll reflect and see if my husband notices any differences.
I think at its most basic level, enlightenment is really just connecting with your true nature. That's really what it is. And it's hard to believe that we are fundamentally good, that we're okay, because our minds are so confused all the time. So enlightenment is really just that connection with ourselves and realizing that actually we're all right, and that these confused, fucked up, confused, neurotic things which our mind can do are not us, and kind of seeing through those.
When an event like the Kalachakra quadruples the local population in a remote Indian city, business booms in the street. And even a carnival comes to town to cash in. After a day of prayer and introspection, it's a chance to have some worldly fun, all in the shadow of the Dalai Lama's summer palace. Kalachakra coincides with the Dalai Lama's birthday. Mountain clans from remote valleys all over the western Himalaya display their traditional outfits, joined by the Tibetan diaspora from all over the world. All are here to pay their respects, group by group, to their spiritual leader. On the 12th day, after the teachings are over and as the festival draws to a close, thousands queue for hours to see the result of the monk's completed sand mandala before it is ritually dissolved and the sand taken to the nearby Indus River to be washed away forever.
I think I was expecting a lot to happen in the Kalachakra. And I think on some level a lot did happen. It was massive. It blew the top off my mind. On another level, I still feel like there's work, you know, like the job is still the same job. And so I really hope that I go back and I can develop a meditation practice based upon what I've understood here. So this 12 days is like setting you up. It's like, you know, it's like getting you ready to go and giving you permission to like access this really profound teaching.
I think it will give me a motivation to work harder, to study more. And then I hope I'll remember some of the things that he's actually taught us.
Well, what I'd like to take with me is an open heart and a sense of possibility. I mean, if I had those things, that would be amazing. And you know, I mean, that's how I feel now. So to be able to take that feeling would be very good.
I come away with definitely more questions than I went with. I come away with more curiosity, more complexity, but I also come away with a deeper peace. From having been in that high desert-like environment, I also come away with, you know, with the great, just how great this earth is.
We do have the power to determine, to shape the quality of our life. And we could keep making a mess of it and having a miserable time and living in conflict and stress, or we can actually figure out how to be peaceful and how to be nice to others and satisfy what they need, and there is plenty for everybody if people didn't hoard too much.
Then I think we have nothing to argue. Sorry. God is infinite love. You see, no possibility to create suffering. So we created this suffering. So it is our responsibility to solve this, to minimize these problems.